Meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Villa Park City Council. Hereby call the meeting to order. Don, will you please call the roll?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Fascinelli.
Present.
Councilman Pitts.
Present.
Councilman Rosine.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Here. Today I'll ask Councilman Colacott to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
From the sacrifices of many, we are privileged to say this Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council, is there any reportable action from the closed session?
There's no reportable action, and for the record, we did add an emergency item under significant exposure to litigation pursuant to a unanimous city council vote, and there was also no reportable action on that matter.
That's okay. Thank you. Before we get started, I want to tell everyone that recently this weekend, we had a collapse of a major storm drain at Mesa and Henderson, and I want to thank all the people that helped us out during this weekend. All the members of the City Council monitor the situation, but Mayor Pro Tem Colacott and Councilman Rossini spent hours at the site and made contact with Supervisor Spitzer to authorize some county public works help. And I really want to thank Supervisor Spitzer for all the help he gave us with the public works folks. Also, we had our engineer, Akron, and our maintenance supervisor, Mike Knowles, spent countless hours there as well. I want to thank them. Our city contractor and local resident, Barry Roderick, provides some help. Also, city resident and general engineer and contractor help, Harvey Beagle. Also, Lieutenant Puckett of the Sheriff's Department and Deputy Brad Templeton and Sergeant Troy Feely was tremendous help. Battalion Chief Andy Kovacs of the Orange County Fire Authority, the Orange County Public Works Department, including Shane Silsby, the Director, A.J. Jamie, the Operations Manager, Robert Davis, the Public Works Supervisor, David Fernandez, Heavy Equipment Supervisor, Russell Casas, County Public Works Supervisor. And finally, the property owner that was did such a marvelous job in letting us come into her yard and doing so much work, Naomi Oriel. And I want to thank all of those for what they did this weekend. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask all those in the audience to please silence your cell phones or turn them off if possible. The Villa Park City Council staff welcomes you to this meeting and we encourage your participation. If you wish to address the City Council, please complete and submit a speaker card to the City Clerk before the scheduled meeting time. Speaker cards can be found at the entrance to the City Council chambers. Speaker will be limited to a time period of 5 minutes. And so now we will have our presentation starting with the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm pleased to report that for the crime statistics of December 2016, Villa Park enjoyed another month of relatively low crime. Knock on wood, we had a total of 5 crimes for the month. 1 attempted burglary at the 1700 block of Santiago Boulevard, where the front door of business was shattered in pride, but there was no reported loss. We have 2 residential burglaries, which both consisted of 1 at 1800 block of James Road. Some power tools and construction equipment were taken. Apparently the house was being remodeled and some tools were taken over the nighttime hours. And the second time happened again, this time on the 1800 block of Joshua Tree Circle, where again some power tools and construction tools were removed from a residence under construction. There's no known connection between the two at this time. We had a grand theft on the 1800 block of Taft, where a guitar was taken from the Villa Park High School Performing Arts Room. And then we also had 1 act of vandalism where on the 9000 block of Ryan Circle, a vehicle tires were damaged with scissors. Villa Park had no injury traffic accidents for the month of December, but did experience 7 non-injury traffic accidents. 1 where no report was needed, one where the parties simply exchanged information, one where the vehicles did require a report, one where a vehicle backed into another in their own driveway, one where the driver fell asleep and hit a parked car, another one with information exchange, and then another one where no report was needed. And we issued 36 traffic citations for the month. Are there any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have the Orange County Fire Authority.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, and residents. My name is Ron Roberts. I'm one of your assigned battalion chiefs here in the city of Villa Park. My report tonight, as you would expect, is mostly that we've experienced calls for service in the medical area during this time period. We had no structure fire responses, and as you can imagine, this last weekend, we were very busy across our service area with water-related calls. Along that line, just a reminder to the residents, please be careful when there's moving water. A small depth of moving water can really move a lot of weight. And also, as a reminder, we do have sand and sandbags available to the citizens of Villa Park at Fire Station 23. It's the residents of Villa Park only. However, we're not checking IDs. We're not enforcing that as probably you would think, but it is first come, first serve, and it is on an honor system. So if we don't have anything available, we will make sure to have it there if you just want to knock on the door and let the firefighters know. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know, thank you very much for taking my call when I called you over the weekend regarding the sandbags. We did have a resident call and wanted to know where to get them, and I found you. I called a lot of numbers and I found you. It's how it worked.
Happy to help.
But I also had to fill some sandbags for a neighbor. And when I went down there, the sandbags were not on the sand. So I came here because we do have residents who do need them. They can come here to City Hall. We have a small supply. Where do you keep the sandbags? Do you knock on the door?
They should be on the sand pile.
Okay, then they were
I-
taken because it was pouring rain that day.
I know personally that we did bolster our supplies today.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I know after a day like today, you probably don't think about sand or sandbags, but with what the season may be shaping up as, we want to be ready.
Sure, and if our residents want to be sure, we do have a small supply here. They can come pick them up. They're empty, but they can at least pick them up and then go shovel the sand in and take a shovel.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, let me just add a point.
When we weren't sure that we were going to get Muscle Wall in, the battalion chiefs from the Orange County Fire Authority stayed and were prepared to bring hand crews in to bring hundreds of sandbags to protect that house. So they stayed until they knew that the Muscle Wall could be brought in by Public Works, County Public Works. So it was really nice to have that backup. Thanks much, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. I attended the meeting last week. They only had 2 action items on the agenda. One was to update their purchasing procedures, and primarily to give the general manager a little more purchasing power, up to $30,000 without coming to the board. And the second one was to replace Robert's Rules of Order with Rosenberg's Rules of Order for their parliamentary procedures. And that was the extent of the meeting. Orange County Sanitation District.
Okay, my first meeting of the Orange County Sanitation District, where I'll be representing the city, is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. I'll be in attendance at that meeting.
Okay, Orange County Library Advisory Board.
Nothing, no meeting?
Budget and Finance Committee, we did not have any meeting. Community Development and Public Safety.
We did not have a meeting.
Human Resources.
No meeting.
City Schools Advisory.
No meeting.
Law Enforcement Advisory.
No meeting.
No, okay. Investment Advisory, we did have a meeting. We had a meeting, and we talked again about this 115 trust and how you can use it to reduce your unfunded pension liability. And they're going to be bringing a proposal to the city council in the future. But meanwhile, they're going to meet with each council member to provide them some background on the information. So each one of you will be getting a call from Bill Underwood to sit down with you and give you some background information on the trust, so when it comes before you, you'll have a clear understanding of it. That concludes my report. Develop Park Community Services Foundation.
I believe there's some information in our agenda tonight to vote on some new membership,
Okay,
and I think the first meeting is scheduled next month.
all right. Friends of Villa Park Library.
Nothing to report.
Okay. All right, this time, members of the public may address the council on any off-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council, providing no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person and 30 minutes for all comments. Is there any speakers, public comments? I don't have any cards, but yeah, come right on up, Donna.
Good evening, I'm Donna Buxton, I reside on Dodson Way. I'm glad you spoke about the storm drain collapse. I went by there several times this weekend, and it was a really huge deal. And I just wanted to applaud all of you for your management and organization of that situation. And Councilman Pitts for posting updates on the situation. I thought that was really great. And especially to Mayor Pro Tem Collicott and Councilman Rossini, who spent a large amount of time there. And I mostly wanted to just express my gratitude for Mayor Pro Tem Collicott's background in infrastructure, because I think that really helped us to know how to handle the situation and pull all the resources together. But again, you know, to everybody, thank you. I thought y'all did a really great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, our first item on the agenda is consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and are usually enacted by one motion approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. All members of the council, staff, or the public may request items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Are there any items that the public wants to remove from the consent calendar? Any items the council wants to move from the consent calendar?
Yes.
Which one?
9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 18, and 19.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the remaining items?
So moved.
Been moved and second. Don, roll call.
Councilwoman Fasenelli,
Yes.
Councilman Pitts,
Yes.
Councilman Rosini,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Collicott,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Now we'll take up the other items that were pulled for discussion, starting with item number 9.
Right, and I'm gonna take these individually, but make a comment, given that we have an interim city manager, he wasn't aware that we do have an outside service that does the minutes for us. So I thank him for putting these brief minutes in here, but they do need to go back to the transcriber so that they do come back a little more detailed, but then there is a few items that I want to point out on each of them. The first one, which is item number 9, December 13th, other than certainly the detail that needs, a little more detail that needs to be put in it from the transcriber, there was a written email from Councilman Barnett that I read that should be attached to that. So if we can make a notation when those are transcribed that we do attach his parting words, that would be appropriate, since he did email that to Jared. And that would be on Jared's email that I'm sure you guys can get to. And that is the first one, which is item number 9.
Well, and then we have one other thing, Mr.
Mayor, members of the council, I keep forgetting to turn this thing on. It said the Councilman Rossini was appointed to the city council, and he was elected, as I recall. So we will make that change.
Okay, now do we need to approve that one on its own, or can we do 9, 10, and 11 as?
You can group them all together
Okay.
if you want,
We
as
can-
one motion.
We can approve them all in one motion?
Yes, you
Okay.
can, but now your motion, though, was I think, don't approve these minutes because you want further minutes.
I do want further minutes, so how would we do that?
Well, if somebody else wants to approve these minutes with the 2 amendments, i.e. elected, not appointed, and with the attachment of Greg's email,
Okay.
we can do that.
Just because typically, they've all been transcribed. Since they're not transcribed, we need to send them out to our normal protocol.
The city has a general policy, given past direction, only sort of takes action minutes, so there's no legal requirement that they all go up, but, so it's really up to the council whether you want to approve these minutes or not.
There's no rush to approve the minutes, can we just put them off and bring
Absolutely.
them back for a
Absolutely.
subsequent meeting? so we
Okay.
Have them done the way you want?
Yeah.
That would be great if we can do
So
that.
9, 10, 11, we will just not approve those and
They'll be brought back pursuant to,
brought back with transcribed minutes.
Yes, that would be great, because
Okay.
there's, I think it's on 11, there's quite a few.
9, 10, and that's 9, 10, 11.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
number 12.
Number 12, this was something new inside our agenda packet. I did speak with our interim city manager, but I have a few questions on it because when I did get this, I thought, okay, this is, which is a great report, and we do get this as far as council people go in the community development meeting, but it's the building and safety report. What exactly is this? Is this all the permits? Is this everything open? Because I know that there's more construction going on, so,
Right, that's why
We have the-
Bill
we have
here,
the
our
Bill
building
here.
official here.
thank you.
and council members. The open construction report has been put out for a couple years. Maybe Jared never passed it on to you.
So this is December 2016.
It's a monthly, maybe 6 weeks
Okay.
of where each project is.
Is this all the properties that have an open permit? I think
No.
that's my question, because I think that
No,
there's
it's-
much more.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
big
thought
time.
this was all the properties, but I know there's some missing here.
No, it's
These
just the
new
ones that-
permits, are these new permits that were just acquired?
No.
No?
No, those are, that are ongoing, or they're big enough that you see them. Or they have something going on that is gonna raise a question.
Or revisions or whatever?
Sort of a thing like that, but it's just out there in the open.
Okay.
But not that anything's wrong with any of them.
Oh, no.
It's just, hey, this is what's going on, so,
It's just a random, I don't want to say,
yeah, sort of random.
okay,
Yeah, there might be a few in there I don't want you to know about.
okay, all right.
But I'm gonna take care of,
I mean,
Don and I are gonna take care of on.
This is
on
a
the
great
side.
report, except that I'm not quite sure why I'm only seeing these properties. Not that I need to see all of them, but since I don't know why I'm only seeing these,
I don't think you wanna know that somebody replaced a water heater,
Mm-hmm.
or I had 5 solar permits in December.
Was this a threshold situation where you put a threshold in and say if anything above X?
Nah,
No.
it's a personal thing with me,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It's subjective, but when
We talked about it, and I just felt we'd share this information, with the council. You'd see some significant stuff that was going on. But we weren't gonna bother you with, water heaters.
well, no, I understand, but like we have a huge home on Center being built right now, right past Evergreen.
Yes,
Is that on, that's not on here? So that's why,
it should be on there.
okay. So that's why when I looked at it, I was looking for some of the new huge remodels that we pass every day. That's why I'm like, well, what am I looking at? I don't really understand.
Well, and I think one of the reasons I wanted to bring this to the council, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, is that if you want us to change it, if you want everything on it, we're happy to do that, so.
You can also, yeah, and you can also
We can
look at the
expand
month-
it or eliminate it, it's up to the council.
You can look at the monthly report that has every permit that was issued. That's that spreadsheet. Yeah.
Right.
And I would think maybe residents might have a question too, whether or not their neighbors pulled a permit for X, and X. 'cause
Yeah,
I
let me know. I'm not here every day, but I'll catch
Right.
whoever I can.
Right.
And the other reason that I put it on is that building permits are way up. And so I felt it was important to kind of let you know why they're up.
I understand. Yeah, I don't want to see like the plumbing and stuff like that. I like to see the big stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, so maybe
So
if
if
we can,
Yeah.
you want to see it every month, I can
stuff, that
do
would
it
be
every
great.
month. I just have to find the time.
yeah.
We talked about the time that it takes for these reports.
I don't need to see this every month. I can't speak for the rest of the council. But-
Let me know, because if not,
But this doesn't help me much unless I have the big remodels on it.
It's fine. We're bringing it really for direction from the council. Do you want to see it or you don't want to see it? That's really what it's amounts to.
Is there a way to post it for everyone's review?
Well, I mean, yeah, we could do that, or we can just send you a copy and not put it on the agenda and just, and then if you have questions, you can ask Bill about it.
If it's on the agenda, it's available to the public, right?
Sure.
Okay, so it is posted.
Yeah.
It's part of the agenda.
Well, I was thinking more or less on our website that people could, if they had questions about permits or whatever, they could go and look at it, that's all. That's part of the reason I asked.
I'm personally happy seeing it quarterly. I mean, if to me, I don't need to see it every month. It's just kind of nice quarterly to see where
We
it's
just
at,
need direction
you
from
know,
the council.
and that would be my preference.
Sure.
It's just a quarterly
Fine.
report, so we just see where it's at. Typically, this used to come to the community development meeting, not the council. So and we're going to talk about that later, but that's where I used to see it when I was on that. And we would talk about remodels and permits and so on. So I don't want any more work to be done, so.
let me know.
So we just need some direction. Do you want it quarterly, or do you want us to just give it to you monthly in your mail?
Their development activities in flux, and as you mentioned, the building permit activity is way up. I like seeing it monthly, and I like to know what your perspective is, what you think is important for us to know. So I find it useful.
Well, as far as this building and safety report, I thought we got that every month anyway. I thought Bethany used to mail this to us from, when you sent it to her, and then she would send out email it out to the council every
End
month.
of every month. Right.
So it's not something new to me.
But it's not complete. I think that's what my question was when I looked at the addresses. I was trying to look for the homes that were being remodeled, and they weren't on there. So obviously I didn't know what I was looking at.
But these, as I understand, is what's happened in the month of December.
Yes.
The one you're talking about may have pulled it in November, for example.
Correct.
So,
Right. So you could be a
I
month,
didn't
2
have a
months
problem
back.
with this because I'd seen this report month after month, and I understood what it was.
Okay.
I think this is the one that is in question.
Yeah,
I think this is the one in question.
that's something new. The second
Right,
one is
this could-
something
you
new.
get every month.
But the first one we see every month.
Right, this is the one that he's asking for direction, quarterly direction. This one he does every single month, hands down.
Let me know what you want. I'll put you on the end of the month email list, and you'll all get it at the end of the month. I have a monthly report for county assessor, for you, for finance. They tab all the money.
If you have a monthly email report
Yeah.
that you're sending to them, would you kindly add the council to
Sure.
that?
I will.
Is that acceptable?
Yep.
Okay. Then if we want to read it monthly, we can, and if we don't, we can read it quarterly. Is that okay?
You got it.
Okay.
It's okay with
And
me.
that's not going to be any more work on your part? You
Not-
just add our email address to that? Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate
One
that.
click.
Thank you.
Okay? Thanks.
Okay, do we want to
Okay.
approve
So
that one?
That was my question. Yes, that's fine, and that was more for question, and I move to approve that.
You moved number 12?
Yes, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved in second. Could we have a roll call done?
Yes. Councilman Fasenelli,
Yes.
Councilman Pitts,
Yes?
Councilman Rosini,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes.
Okay. Item 17, I wanted to make a mention and a thank you to Doug Bender for his services for the Villa Park Community Service Foundation. He's not here. He was the chairman, I can't tell you how many years of that foundation, and he served this community well. He has moved from the city and has left the foundation. They did thank him, but I think a formal thank you from certainly the dais is in order for everything that he did do for the foundation, and that's why I pulled this. I'm not sure if the public knows that he no longer is the chairman, and he's there. And at the same time, I want to thank Ed Carter for stepping up and coming up to the foundation. He has been interviewed by them, and he's going to be a good addition over there. And you never know, we might have a new president and chairman for that foundation. He has a lot of great ideas, but that's the reason why this item was pulled.
And thanks to Kay for filling the shoes for right now.
Yes, in case filling the shoes, it is. And if anyone would like to be part of that foundation, they would love to have people apply. They certainly could use it. And with that, I will move that item.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes?
Councilman Rossini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Item 18, I brought this to the attention of the city manager.
Yes, I goofed on this.
With
We got
the-
three
the
different
backup-
people.
The backup in the agenda
The
did not
agenda,
match.
And in the agenda report, we have two people,
Yes.
and none of them are the same.
Okay.
That's what happens when you have a new guy, yeah, and an old guy.
So who are we reappointing?
It's John Whitman and Richard Merg.
Which ones?
John Whitman and Richard Merg.
Okay.
Yeah, they expired January 2017, and they will be reappointed. I mean, they want to be reappointed for 2 more years, expiring January 2019.
Okay, let the record reflect the change, and want to move that, approve
Yes,
it with the
I will,
change?
yes, I will move that.
Second.
Moved in second, roll call?
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes?
Councilman Rossini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
I'm getting better at this.
Okay. All right, item 19. This is to reappoint William Underwood, which is, I have no problem with. What I'd like to do here is honor Jim Ryans, who did resign from the Investment Advisory Committee. Jim Ryans was a past councilman. He was here, I can't tell you what years, maybe 1974, and he did serve 2 terms. And he's been on the Investment Advisory Committee at least 15 years, if not more. I believe it was one of the founding participants on that investment advisory. He has been on the Friends of the Library Board also. He has served the city well, and I have to thank him, and he's done very well for this, and he has moved on, and we'll look for another person to replace him, which will be very hard, but thank him very much.
Okay, you move that one?
I do.
In a second,
Second.
roll call?
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes?
Councilman Rossini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Under new business, our first item of new business is the mid-year budget review and budget adjustments with Michelle, I believe.
Absolutely.
Presentation on that.
Just give us a second, we'll be ready to make the presentation to you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Matthew's going to help me get set up for the presentation. You have the presentation printout in front of you. It's really hard to put the thing down and go back. Is it? Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. When I turn the light goes back up. Look at the, Matthew, you gotta grab the lights. Okay, whoa, we're dark now. Can you turn the light here up here? I'm like, I can't see what I'm doing. I'm too old for this.
Good to go.
All right, this is gonna be just an overview of our finances. I figured that we could do a little update, for council and, get an idea of our December overview, but why is it not? How come it's giving me the wrong presentation?
Put it in presentation mode, Michelle?
I do have it in presentation mode on my screen.
On the screen, it looks good.
On my screen, it looks good.
Switch your screens.
Okay. Whoa. Is it coming? Nope. Okay. Let's try this again. Display settings. What? Okay. I think you just have to do it. Okay, well, we're gonna look at it like this because I will be here for an hour trying to figure it out. It's not my skill. So, so December 2016 financial review. I wanted to give you an update on our cash position, and this is something we go over in our investment advisory committee. The total cash that we have on hand right now is a little over $4.7 million, and the reason why it's so high right now, just to give you an idea that the projects that we do for each fiscal year usually occur in the latter half of the year. So our street project, our sewer project, those are our big ticket dollar amounts. So right now it's like, yeah, we have a lot of money, but we're holding it out for the big projects. We have a $750,000 project and another $350,000 and a couple other large ones. But I just wanted to explain to you where our money is being held. Right now we have short-term investments of about $2.2 million, and that, the significance right there is we have our checking or savings, and then we have some of it in LAIF and OCIP, and both of those instruments we can pull in a day. So we get a little better interest than our basic savings. As we know, that's not a lot. But our LAIF and OCIP is where we draw down for our basic city expenditures. The IAC has worked really hard at earning more interest for the city, and we have based on the government code, we have to be in line with the prudent man rule. So what that is it's government money. So safety is priority one, liquidity and yield. Yield is our last one that we personally would rather go after, but it's government taxpayer money, so we're a little more conservative. So part of it is that we can only invest in instruments under 5 years. So one of the instruments that we use is medium-term investments, which is with CalTrust, and that's another pooled investment vehicle that we can use, and that is earning at about 1% now, between 1 and 0.75. Our long-term investments is what we shoot for is right now we're at 1.5 million, and that is in line with our general fund reserve. As our budget every year, we determine our reserve dollar amount that it can only be taken out by 4/5 vote. And that money we put in long-term investments because truly we're hoping we'll never have to touch that. So that's where we go and we ladder them out over 5 years. So that's where we get the best interest earnings, and those we use advisors of Wells Fargo and Union. So just to give you kind of a little snapshot, the cash in the general fund is 2.2 million of that 4.7, and it's about, right now we have about 48% in short term, and that's because we had just received our first large apportionment of our property taxes in December. The general fund revenues, and this is kind of an overview of the agenda items in the consent. I'm just kind of bringing some things to your attention that are year-to-date revenues in the general fund, because that's what we have discretion over for city services. It's 1.3 million, and it's about 40% of our budget. And typically, if you Mayor Nelson and I have talked about this, it's not that you get 50% because we have 50% of our year, we should have 50% of our revenues. That's not technically how it works because of the ebb and flow of revenues, whether you get them quarterly, whether you get them twice a year. I mean, it depends on the flow of it. So what we do is every month I go through the revenues and compare it to budget and compare it to trending analysis and determine if there's an area of concern. And we do budget small, so I know it's a nominal dollar amount for a budget of 4.7 million, but we look at revenues that are greater than $5,000 budgeted, and if they are below the threshold of 50%, because right now at December 30th, we should technically, be 50% revenue sources in. So we're assuming, okay, anything below 40%, we should look into. And upon that, most of them can be explained away, and most of them are because we receive certain revenue sources, whether it's quarterly, like I mentioned, or if we receive every 2 months. So you're going to see a lag in 6 months of activity isn't going to come in until February. So it's just a timing source, but we do the research and make sure that there's nothing out of whack. And the biggest example, and the reason why we're at 40% overall on our general fund revenues is our property tax in lieu. VLF, we get that in January. So it's a budgeted dollar amount of $548,000. So we have zero right now, or as of December 31st, we had zero. And to show that that's not an issue that we need to worry about is on the 3rd, we received $270,000, which is normal, normal trends. So that's just kind of an idea of where our revenues in our general fund lie. Now the expenditures, the offhand of that is I always like to try and point out to understand that we use our available fund balance I talk about a lot, and that's because it's basically your savings, because as you can see, we're at 1.4 million in our expenditures, which is more than the revenues that we have. But because we have, available fund balance from the prior year, and it's very typical, that in January and February, the revenues will exceed the general fund expenditures, but in the first half of the year, they usually don't. So there's no alarm here. Again, we look at, every month we look at the expenditures, and any dollar amount that's budgeted over $5,000 and is above 50%, since we're December, so it would be 55%. Anything that we're at 55%, we look into, say, why are we spending more at this point in time? And the only one that came up this month was our police division, and I was a little, I was laughing because the reason why we're ahead is because we paid the January law enforcement invoice in December, and that was because our city manager was leaving, and we had check signers, both Mayor Nelson and Mayor Pro Tem Colcott understand the signing of checks is super fun, and getting everybody to sign a certain dotted line, and there's a million documents that you have to sign. So I wanted to make sure we got that paid before we had the changing of the guard. So that is the only expenditure that threw us off. And now to the fund mid-year budget. What we do typically is every December, well, we look at our revenues and expenditures comparative to budget every month. But I do an in-depth review at the middle of the year, just to kind of see if we're hitting our targets, if there's something that we need to look at. And in 15-16, it was Councilman Nelson at the time, was recommending that we had a budget contingency line item. And basically that gives the city manager authority to appropriate money for adjustments that come up within the year. Because obviously we all know that our budgets are a budget and they're an estimate, and we would love to always come under, but sometimes we don't, based on things out of our control or things that occur. So this tactic has reduced our need for budget adjustments, because we've been able to take out money from that source. And this last budget year, we budgeted $144,000, which again is our threshold is 5% of our general fund operating expenditures. So we started at 144, and as you can see, we're down to 56,000. And I have a slide to show you where we've spent that money. But it's a great opportunity here for us not nickel and diming you every time. Oh, we need to buy some cherries. We need to paint this. We need little things that come up that we can use. And the two most significant ones was actually it was June 28th is when council approved it, but our budget was already finalized at that point. A additional street repair project, and at that point it was awarded that the $32,000 for that project would be pulled out of budget contingency. So that was the first big ticket item. The second one was the Orange County Sheriff's Department adjustment for to the law enforcement contract, and this happens every single year. When we sign our contract, in the contract there's times where negotiations aren't complete, and we sign the contract knowing that there will be an adjustment, and some years it's nominal. This year it was $27,000, and so another source of big ticket item that we used. So with those two items, yes, sir.
Let me just interject something. Lieutenant Puckett told me today that
Michelle and I are invited to a meeting to see what the new budget issues on the contract might be, and some explanations from their budget people. And they asked if we wanted to go, and I said absolutely. I would like to be. It's the biggest item in your budget. So Michelle and I will be going to kind of get a wide picture of what that $1.6 million is all about and where they're headed, because I think they're projecting a $100,000 increase in 17-18. But just a sidebar from a guy from LA County. If you're with the LA County Sheriff, it would be over $3.2 million guaranteed. So this is the Orange County Sheriff provides a terrific contract amount. It would easily be double this. And coming from LA County, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I would say, just to interject, Mayor, there are government code provisions in place. It's not like the sheriff's department can make money off of these types of contracts. It's really cost-based. So it's not as if, oh, does the sheriff want to make a profit or not? Government code restrictions limit the interaction of what that dollar amount can be, just so you know.
All right, so here is the breakdown of the budget contingency. I apologize that it's not the full screen. I'll just name off the items that we've done. We did some bollards, 8 bollards for school safety. Those were installed at the beginning of the year. We bought some additional street signs, a new phone system for City Hall, the final bill for a local hazard mitigation study. Another purchase that we made was 4 large trash receptacles for the trails. Again, I already mentioned the council approved street repair project. Another council-driven item was an internal control audit, which is underway right now, and the report should be coming up fairly soon. Unfortunately, our AC unit was archaic and needed a little bit of help at the beginning of the year, so we bring down the temperature in here. Some signs, a control box for signs, GASB 68, that was a fun one. PERS decided not to break out the information for the cities, but it's a requirement by GASB to have it broken out. So not only do we have to pay for the information from PERS, but we also had to pay somebody else to decipher the information from PERS. So that was fun. Another couple large grading project. The thing about the grading project expenditures we have is we have an offsetting revenue for that source. So that's net zero, but it does increase our expenditure line item. And the ACOC annual league due increase. This was a new item. The ACCOC, and they've offered to have their CEO come out and explain the reasoning, but we budget to be part of their membership every year. However, they reorged that whole thing, and it doubled ours. Didn't double anybody else's, but ours is so small that it was a significant increase for us. So that is an additional $3,000, and then again, like we had mentioned, the Orange County Sheriff's Department. So now,
Michelle?
yes, sir.
Does that mean we pay them $6,000 a year for membership?
Yep.
I would like for her to come out and explain
Okay.
that.
I thought so.
I mean, how
lot
much
of
do we
money.
pay for the League of Cities?
I believe that's 41, maybe.
41?
Yeah, I think that's about. Yeah.
Okay,
A lot.
awful lot. I would like for her to come out and explain.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll make it happen. So we are down to $56,000. Some of the items that I believe Interim City Manager Powell has presented for you is council chamber chairs, these chairs that everybody's sitting in, little old. Maybe updating those, painting the Civic Center, security in the Civic Center, rekeying the Civic Center, and a new podium that we could desperately use.
Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make note that the
Yes.
Women's League did provide us with a
Yes.
grant. So it's
Yes.
$1,800 or $2,000, but we have a significant grant that's been here for a few months towards those chairs, so.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Mayor and members of the council, every time I've been here, this is the third time. We look at a
Same
few of the
chairs.
maintenance, issues, because I would prefer to do things incrementally as opposed to a great, big project. And so these are just a few of the things that we thought, need to be kept up to date here a little bit.
And to the fun part, the budget adjustments. We don't really have a lot of budget adjustments. The one that we talked about it, in total, we're talking $2,000. Not something that anybody swoons at, but the policy we have here in our city is anytime a fund is, the total fund balance, the total fund budget is changed, council needs to approve that. So here's like just a little spreadsheet of kind of what occurred. We have a CLEAP fund that we received money in, right after 9/11. And it was a California law enforcement emergency equipment plan, and it can only be used for law enforcement purchases. And we've been trying to exhaust that with buying specific things, and with the 800 CCS megahertz system that we're communication-wide is coming up, we thought perfect use of that money. When we do our budget, we obviously estimate our year end, but when I do the mid-year, I use our audited numbers. So we have an extra $3,500, and we're trying to deplete that money because the general fund has to absorb anything that the CLEAP fund can't absorb. So in this fund, we would like to increase the expenditures in the CLEAP fund for $3,500, therefore reducing the expenditures in the general fund. Because our general fund, we want to protect that as much as we can. Measure M, same kind of idea, is that our street repair projects, we always use gas tax money and Measure M money first. Those are monies that we want to expend right away, and then we use general fund money. So same idea, our Measure M funding was less, our year-end balance was less when we budgeted. So here we'll be using $3,000 less in the Measure M fund, therefore the general fund is going to have to absorb $3,000. So net effect for the general fund is a decrease of $539. So that's, I mean, I know it's nominal, but it's just showing you where the money's going. And the last is to increase in the sewer emergency callouts. In the city sewer fund, we have money designated for any time our maintenance crew has to go out for an emergency sewer service. And we've had quite a few this year. So we would, based on the status right now, we would like to increase that. However, I was speaking with Mayor Nelson, and he has an idea that he will propose in about a minute, because I'm going to go quick.
Yes, my understanding, all these other funds, you're really changing the amount in the total fund. But this one is just an addition to salaries in the fund, which supplies and services may be even less. So you could come up with less spending. I think that the city manager should have authority to move money around in each fund, but not move money between funds. And if he has that authority, then he can just substitute service supplies with salaries in this fund.
And that's,
That would be my proposal.
that's a great proposal. I would second that. I mean, I would.
You can't
I can't
second
second
it.
it, but I would like to. I would like to, because it's less work for me. But no, the reason that I have brought it up is in the past, councils, it wasn't a written rule, but it's been the rule of anytime you touch salaries, council knows. You know, so having said that, if this is a total budget that council has approved, then moving it between line items is okay.
Don, what's been your experience with that, with the city manager being allowed to move money around in fund?
My experience has been that city manager has had that authority up to a limit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not $500,000.
Well, it's only $2,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but I mean, you know, $20,000, $25,000, that type of thing, moving it around. But I would add one more thing that you might want to consider, and that is, I think this kind of presentation is terrific. And in the agencies where I've been before, we did it every quarter, not just mid-year. I think it's really, I know you get a monthly report, okay? And I'm not saying the councilmen don't read their monthly financial reports in detail and memorize every aspect of it, but you don't. And so maybe this council does, but it's not been my experience. I think it's really important to have quarterly budget presentations. Michelle will hate me for this, but it brings you up to date. This budget is the city's very healthy. It's wonderful to see you guys are all very fiscally prudent, but at the same time, I think having it quarterly, then if there's some of this movement, you're following that movement a little closer. So that's the only thing I would add to it.
Okay, so I propose that we allow the city manager to move funds within a fund.
With a quarterly budget review?
With what? Yeah.
With a quarterly budget review.
Well, I'm all in favor of quarterly review. I'd be in favor of a monthly review, but I'll settle for a quarterly one.
You want a cap in the amount that,
Cap the amount? Well, I guess 25,000 is a reasonable amount.
For this city, that's reasonable.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So we want to
Well,
a
are you
roll
done?
call now, are you done?
I can be done.
No, we can take a roll call now. and
We'll
then
just
let-
hold that vote.
Okay, hold the vote. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
About the sewer, increased calls and things like that. Is there anything preventative that can be done to help with these call-outs and things going on?
Yes, we do. Every year we do a sewer cleaning, and we take one half of the city and we clean it one year, and the second year we clean the other half. But still, there are some locations which is, I'm gonna call them critical, where there is some grease dumping and additional activities occurring that might cause some clogging and so on. That requires a call out and having the contractor to come in and making sure that it is cleaned, re-cleaned, and flowing.
Have we done anything in the past with regards to community awareness around this problem? Last thing I want is sewer backing up in my house, but, is there anything that everyone should be aware of that we can communicate to help with this situation so that it is preventative not only on our parts by cleaning, but things that the residents should be doing as well?
We haven't sent any flyers to the residents for that, but we could prepare something that we'll put it in our the newsletter and on the website. And some of the locations you see it is like by the commercial, where we don't know exactly where is it coming from, but we'll make sure that we'll stress on them and send them those flyers to keep it clean.
Well,
I
Malcolm,
might, I'm sorry.
do you suspect that our commercial properties here are routinely throwing their grease down? I mean, it happens, I
It happens,
understand it, but if you suspect that that's occurring, we may want to be proactive in that,
And
and
notify
call the county or someone to do some inspections, because that, we have a very small town center.
Yes, the
And-
county does it on a annual basis. They do a inspection, especially for the commercial center here. And so, but
But if
it's
we
still-
suspect something, it's, not that I certainly, I don't want to go and
we cannot tell where is it
purposely
coming
get
from,
somebody
but
in
it
trouble,
is.
but we may want to step up our enforcement of some sort, because, we can't afford
Mm-hmm.
to have disasters like this, if you certainly suspect it. And you would be the one who would know, if there's a
We
bunch of grease
will,
being
we
dumped
will
down.
kind of like pass by all the retail
Mm-hmm.
here and just, kind of educate them as mentioned.
I think
And
that that's-
hopefully that will
I
reduce it.
think we should do that, and possibly that we do send out some sort of a flyer, and saying something, a letter to them, just to make sure that they know, well, they know what they're supposed to do, but know that we're watching it.
Yes.
Mayor and members of council, Mike Knowles is here, and he was called back on Christmas weekend, New Year's weekend, because of backups with the sewer. And some of these are on the property owner's lateral, that with a lot of roots and that type of thing. And he's interacted a lot with the residents in terms of telling them, maybe grouping people together to clean out those roots that are creating a number of problems. But the age of this sewer system it's showing its age in some respects. And I think it went about, Mike, 3 weekends you were called back?
Yeah, 3. It was over the holidays. A lot of people throw grease down in the sink on the holidays. And tree roots.
Yeah.
So maybe a community awareness campaign of some sort that we should be working on in the
Okay.
near future to do that. I know that we've had some complaints from neighbors about some residents that have been throwing some commercial grease and things like that down the drain that we're dealing with, so maybe we need to do some big awareness with it.
All right. Next slide. The major capital projects that we are anticipating, this is what we have budgeted. So whether they are going to occur this fiscal year or not is obviously a timing issue. So our conversion costs will be paid off this year. Our software conversion, we are diming those down right now. And then our storm drain improvements, obviously this is paramount right now. We'll be waiting for CNC's report and then hopefully attacking the areas that are most needed, and potentially more money will be used. But that's what we have budgeted right now, $150,000. City entrance monuments, directional signs. I know City Manager has mentioned that we will have some signs put on Town Center to let everybody know that we have where City Hall is and the library, and that we do have sheriff here. So that money will be used for that. TAF rehabilitation, that is the major street project that we'll be doing this year. About $719,000 is remaining. Wanda Greenbelt, we have the $50,000 budgeted. I know we still have money set aside for that, and looking into whether it's a sprinkler system, automated sprinkler system that's installed or whatnot. There's still proposals out there. The council chamber remodel has a few, about $46,000. Council did say that we were not going to pursue the full council remodel that was originally budgeted for. However, that money has been used for the carpet and, some just major projects that are capital projects that can be reduced from that remaining budget. And then sewer improvement project. That is a 2-year project that is going to be tackled fairly soon. And the remaining, we have our annual street rehabilitation project. And that is the money that we set aside every year for, that's our maintenance of effort that we not minimally have to hit. And this is the smaller project it's small this year because obviously we're doing Taft. So in conjunction with the 2 years, so.
And Mr. Mayor and members of the council might add that at the next council meeting, we're going to have the summary of your infrastructure tour that you took a week ago Saturday. And that will add further definition to your capital projects. And then, of course, the storm drain collapse over this weekend adds another issue to discuss. So all of that will be on for the next agenda.
Is there a list of the city streets that the current $300,000 represents? Is there a list?
I don't think the design's done yet. Akram?
Still, we haven't done any design, and
Okay.
we don't have the list
Okay.
prepared yet.
That should be done right before, and it's brought to council.
Okay.
So you'll see the design. Here is an estimated fund balances as of June 30th, 2017. This is what we are estimating. I have all of them in there. Capital improvements always, stands out like a sore thumb. Why is it negative? It's just a timing issue on the grant revenue that we received on a capital project that what we have previously expended upon. The general fund is what we want to focus on. So the undesignated reserve is what the 5/4 vote or 4/5 vote has to be voted on in order to pull that money out. So we've got $1,511,000 in that, and that's where, as I mentioned in the beginning, our long-term investments hold that money. Designated reserve, these are the reserves that council has set aside for whether it's accrued leave, whether it's for a vehicle. We set money aside each year for anticipation of expenditures in the near future. So we have reserves of $1,967,000, and that obviously, if you look at the general fund, 929 is not included in there. So I just want to show you the 929,000 for general fund. The bottom line is our available fund balance. That's the money that we have to work with, whether we want to add it to a different project or storm drain, whatever it's going to be for. That's the money that we're anticipating we're going to have as of June 30th of 2017. The other reserves that we have, designated reserves, are for the assessment fund, and we have $15,000 set aside for the sewer pump. Never know when that's going to go. That's for Sycamore Circle. And then we have the city sewer improvements fund. And what we set aside, we have our city sewer, we do a master plan every 7 years. And in that master plan, part of the study shows us that in 7 years, you're gonna do another master plan, and you're going to do a CCTV monitoring. And that's where they go through and they look through all the sewers and figure out where the bad areas are. So, of the money that we receive every year, we break down, the CCTV, I think, is like $250,000 or some crazy dollar amount, to just look through the sewers. But that dollar amount is gonna hit in 1 year. So we set aside a seventh of that every year. So that's what this designated reserves is, along with the master plan, which I think is maybe 26 or 50, maybe it's $26,000. So we set aside money for that as well. Those are the 7th year, we'll have those 2 large expenditures, so we wanna make sure we have fund balance for that. So we set it aside.
Michelle?
Yes, sir?
So when they go down to clean the sewers, they don't do a camera shot inside to see after the fact or before the fact? We've got to pay a separate fee to go down and look at things and then decide what to do with things? It's not all simultaneous, Akram?
No, the cleaning is mainly to clean, and if there is any roots, they'll cut the roots and making sure that the pipe is flowing and nothing is blocking it. We do have some budget with that for certain videoing certain sections, but not for the whole system.
Okay.
When we update the master plan, that's when we do and come and video the whole system, so to verify that there isn't any cracks, there isn't any, locations that requires major, improvements.
How often is that done?
Every 7 years.
Okay.
So, this last slide is basically just telling us that our estimated general fund balance at June 30, 2017, consolidated with everything, is $2,896,000. And the total fund balance for all of our remaining funds is $3,490,000. So that is my presentation of where we are financially. Do you have any further questions?
If no questions, then I'd like to go back to the vote on the motion, then take a motion for the other budget adjustments. And you gave the capital report too, as 21?
I gave the capital report? Oh, the capital, I guess I kind of talked a little bit about that, I did.
Yeah, okay.
You're welcome.
Let's do the first motion first.
Your motion is?
Can I ask one question? Are you asking or putting any more money in the contingency budget since it's gone down to $52,000?
Wait, what was the
The
question?
contingency.
What about it?
Are you asking or should we put any
No.
more in the contingency
No.
fund or?
No.
No, the contingency is basically, it seems like a decent amount of money to be able to do for a full fiscal year. What these are doing is, the adjustments that are recommended is to show where the variation is in a fund. So we have a couple special revenue funds, a special revenue fund and a capital project fund, that their total is changing and therefore hitting the general fund. They're in connection with it, right? They're jointly owned. So that's the only reason why there's anything going out of the general fund, that there's like an adjustment there. What Mayor Nelson's talking about is in the sewer fund, we have a $660,000 budget, okay? So that includes the sewer project, that includes admin, salaries, everything, okay? So we were saying that we're gonna go over on salaries because we've had these overtime issues. And his recommendation is saying, well, you have $666,000. You think you're gonna spend all of that $666,000? Most likely not. Therefore, giving the city manager the authority to move within the fund out of salaries. In the past, council has never done that. They never touched it's an unwritten rule. It's not a regulation. There's no limitation on it, but it's just been, if there was a change to salaries, it would be brought to council. So because of, made a good point. I mean, you've got $666,000, $2,000. Do you really need a budget adjustment for that? No.
And on your contingency budget, your interim is cheap, so you're saving another $25,000
I don't know, after this weekend, I don't know.
That was coming.
So you're saving money there, so that'll help the contingency a little bit, yeah. So the mayor asked give the city manager authority to move $25,000, up to a maximum of $25,000 between
Salary.
funds. And
Not between funds.
Within the fund.
Within a
Within a
fund.
within the
fund.
funds.
Within the fund.
Yeah, within the funds.
Inclusive of salaries and benefits. That's the
Inclusive
big
salary
key.
and benefits, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And then the interim suggested that you do a quarterly budget review as part of that, so that you can keep an eye on what is happening there. So if that's the motion, why then,
I'll add that to my motion.
okay.
And I'll add that to my second.
Okay, so we'll take a vote on that.
All right, Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes?
Councilman Rosini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Now we need a motion on the remainder of the budget adjustments. You had other budget adjustments, right?
Right.
We'll need to take a motion on to amend the budget for the other amounts that she recommend. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved in second?
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes?
Councilman Rosini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Now, do you have any more on the mid-year capital project status report, or was that given in this report?
Offer Mike.
Well, Michelle did a good job
Okay.
including most of the information. Just want to add a couple of things. Is to update you on the storm drain master plan, as the CNC, our consultant, the city's consultant, is now following the revised schedule, and they have completed their hydrology calculation report, and it was submitted. Matter of fact, they were planning to do some video for several sections, which is the systems that have a corrugated metal pipes, but due to the rain, it's been delayed, and hopefully this week we will be, Mike and I will be walking, meeting with them and determining all these locations that needs to be videoed and so on. So that should be, and we should also, they'll be preparing the facilities that needs improvements, and also their estimated cost for those improvements sometimes by end of February. The other project which is coming very soon, which is also Michelle mentioned it, is Taft rehabilitation. That is will be ready to advertise it within the next 2 months in order to have it starting, the construction to start in as soon as the school closes. So this way we won't disturb the school traffic and the school activities on Taft itself. The sewer projects, we just started the design. The Civil Source just started the design, they're reviewing the master plan, the sewer master plan, and they'll be submitting for the city a list of all the locations that needs to be improved, and I'll be reviewing them with the city manager and so on before the final design is completed. With that, I think it's one thing which is, as was mentioned, the city council had a tour Saturday, the 14th, and we went through several CIP projects that were completed and also were to be constructed, and also viewed several locations that some of the streets that there are in need of rehabilitation. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
I might just add that the storm drain consultant, Mayor Pro Tem Colacott, had asked for a weekly update. I've been trying to give you those weekly updates when they come in, but they have been sending them in, and it's definitely kept them closer to their schedule. In fact, I think they're on their schedule now.
Yes, they're on schedule,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, the recommendation on this is receive and file. Do we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second? Moved in second, roll call.
I'm just told you can have a voice vote on this.
Voice vote, okay.
Anybody opposed to it?
No one opposed? Okay.
Although I'm getting very good at calling them names.
Too good, too good. The next item of new business is the sale of city-owned property at the corner of Sycamore Circle and Santiago Boulevard.
Mayor and members of the council, back when I was here in 2008, this was a project that I kind of inherited, and we got it beautified, and it's not a pocket park. It's just a beautification project. Unfortunately, the drought really did a job on it, although it may be beautiful today, I don't know, after all this rain. But we worked very closely with the neighboring property owner, Mr. Rambo. He was very helpful at that time. And so we've had a chance to talk to him about this piece of property, and he's interested in purchasing it. And I think I've listed 3 options, really, on it. It needs renovation, so it's either a major renovation for the site, which is estimated, I think Mike and Akram have said, $20,000, $25,000 to do xeriscape type landscaping on it. You could give the adjacent property owner a landscape easement, but then that becomes, future owners, subsequent owners, you got to enforce it and monitor it and what have you. Or obtain an appraisal. It could be worth, in the area of $20,000. It's about 2,000 square feet of usable space. And the adjacent property owner is interested in, and he's here, is interested in purchasing it, but we have to get an appraisal to do it. And my recommendation is get an appraisal, take it, take the money and take it off the maintenance back of Mike Knowles and the staff.
Anyone from the public want to comment on this? Not, I'll bring it back to the council. Any council members?
No.
I make a motion to have the city manager obtain an appraisal and come back to council with that appraisal and an offer from Mr. Rambo to purchase the property.
Second.
Been moved in second?
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes.
Councilman Rossini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott? Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Good. Next, we have Government Finance Officers Association of Villa Park.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the Government Finance Officers Association is an organization I'm very familiar with. I had a finance director, I guess it's 30 years ago now. I've been 50 years in local government. So, and so he was actually on the standards of this. And it seems like almost every time I've been here, they have been recognizing Villa Park for your budgeting processes, which, I just salute you, because this is the highest standards in the country. And Michelle has done it repeatedly. And I say, in my 50 years in government service, I've worked with many finance directors, some of the best, and she is the best, as far as I'm concerned. And so you're fortunate to have her. I said there's no fiscal impact on this thing, but the fiscal confidence is extraordinary. So it's just a recognition of what she and her huge staff have accomplished. So that's...
Well, thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah, she does a fantastic job, and this is a great honor. Year in and year out, she gets this accolades from this Government Finance Officers Association for her budget.
And I can tell you that in LA County, not every city is getting this award. So
No, there's very few that get it.
yes. So you can have the city attorney's telling me that you can have a voice vote. He's getting tired of hearing me.
Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to receive and file?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Okay, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. The next item is Orange County Employment Relations Consortium.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, we got this letter that's attached from Liebert, Caspy, and Whitmore, and I talked to the city attorney about this, and he said, you know, basically, his firm provides all these same services. It appears that the city was in this consortium back in 2014, not last year, as far as I can tell. And I just didn't see a reason to spend $1,200 on this annually if there's no reason for it. But I thought, well, maybe the council knows something about this that I don't and the staff doesn't know. So we brought it to you. Otherwise, I probably just would have sent them a nice no letter. But I thought we'd better find out if somebody knows something more than I do. So the recommendation is that we don't need this.
I agree, if we don't use it, I don't know what this is. So, we haven't, I mean, have we gone to anything with these
Yes,
people?
basically, it's a training consortium, so if you need any type of training, managerial training, whether it be harassment training, whether it be any type of training, but Ratana Tucker offer that.
And so does the League of Cities and.
So does the
Right.
JPIA.
The Orange,
Get all of
the
that stuff
Orange
from
County
them.
Association?
Right, but I mean, you would have to, if League of Cities, I mean, you would pay like a, you know, a $20, $30, you know, so this was like,
nominal.
right, it's nominal, right, but this was a consortium. This was originated back, I would say, when Lori Sassoon was here. There was a connection that she had that she knows, and she would send out the report and say, you know, which classes you like to go to, and so staff would go.
Well, given that we've gotten a 100% increase from ACCOC, we
Right?
don't need this.
Right, we don't need it. Agreed.
Does this consortium provide things like safety training, health and safety training, or is it just employee relations?
No, health and safety, I'm not sure.
No, I did not see it in their list
I don't
of
believe-
things.
They're a personnel law firm. It's all
Right.
personnel.
Yeah.
I move not to be part of this association,
I'll
not renew
second
it.
that.
Do I have a
Voice
second?
vote.
Second.
being
Voice
told.
vote? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. Motion passes. Next is Santiago Boulevard and Patrician Drive intersection visibility. And I do have a public comment on this after you make your report.
I'll let our city engineer talk to you, and then I'll maybe have a couple of comments
Okay.
about it as well. And there's somebody here in the audience
Yes.
that might be interested.
We have a public member want to speak on this item.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, the city received a request to install a stop signs at the intersection of Santiago and Patrician. And it's mainly because of several vehicles parking too close to the intersection that is blocking the visibility of vehicles exiting Patrician and trying to make a left turns or right turn into Santiago. So staff did conduct a stop sign study, and that's we did the traffic counts entering each leg of the intersection, and following the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is the MUTCD, for the stop signs, really none of the warrants that are required were met because the volume of traffic that is on Patrician and also on Santiago did not meet those requirements and so on. So from a technical and traffic engineering, staff is not recommending to install any stop sign at the intersection. However, in order to improve the visibility at the intersection, staff is recommending that we prohibit parking along Santiago on that side of Patrician, but 40 feet on each side in order to force the vehicles to park a little bit further from the intersection, and thus will improve the visibility for vehicles exiting Patrician and entering the Santiago Boulevard. With that, I recommend the City Council to approve the resolution that would prohibit the parking along Santiago on the south side, by the intersection of Patrician, 40 feet on each side. Any questions, we'll be glad to answer.
This issue was brought up by, by Jared, our prior city manager, and the question came up about painting the curbs red and prohibiting parking as perhaps the simplest solution, and it was rejected by the residents because they were concerned that that would just drive non-resident parking onto the onto Patrician. Have the residents been consulted about this, or?
Yes.
Yeah, let me just say that I've talked to one who seemed to be, and who's in the audience and may want to talk to you, seemed to have kind of a leadership position. We have tried to keep the amount of red curb to a minimum, just to create the line of sight, so that we're really talking about 2 car lengths on one side and 2 car lengths on the west side. I've talked to the owner. These are employee cars. They're not patient cars. And they can certainly live with that. This will create the line of sight. She has assured us that there will be no cars on Patrician. You know, she will not permit that, and they haven't apparently been doing any of that. So, to me, this looked like the best solution. Certainly unwarranted stop signs ultimately come back and bite cities sooner or later.
I'd like to make some comments before we go to the public on a little history on this. When this request came from the residents, and I'm not sure exactly who it came from, Jared sent out a letter to several of the surrounding streets saying that this was an option, that we might be putting a stop sign. At that point, it was to go to CDC, which it went to CDC and it stopped. Nothing occurred. So there wasn't any sort of a formal discussion with the residents about pointing it red or not putting the stop sign in. Nothing occurred at all within the CDC. So now, thank you, it's been resurrected. This hasn't gone away. We've had some people very much against the stop sign, not necessarily on Patrician. We've had a resident on Workman. We've had some people on Sterling that have not wanted the stop sign, but the residents on Patrician, the majority of them have said that they want it. So they haven't had the opportunity to come and discuss it with a committee. So I just want to give that background. One of the comments today that I did speak with one of the residents was, you sent us out a letter that said you were going to put the stop sign in, but you never sent out a letter that said, oh, we changed our mind, we're going to put a red curb in. So we didn't have to send the stop sign out, but they expected a letter that said, hey, by the way, we might be painting your curbs red. So since we did one, they expected the other. And that's what happens when we kind of go out of the norm a little bit. So I do understand their frustration. As we all know, it's on the agenda, but you know, sometimes we have to make sure that we tell them to read it so they know it's on there. I did alert a few of the people that were very concerned about it last night to make sure that they knew it was on it so they can come speak. And I know that you did have a lengthy meeting today with one of the residents, and thank you for that. But that's a little bit of a background that they didn't have their time to come and speak at a CDC meeting.
And we can certainly send a letter out to everybody, if the council decides to do the red curb, let them know that this is the solution. I really don't know what other solution will solve the problem. A stop sign would be dangerous at that situation. We saw it on the infrastructure tour, but this will create the line of sight. And but there is a gentleman here, you know, in the audience that may want to, you know, address the council.
Actually, I just want to correct, you know, what transpired at the CDC. Staff, Jared, did bring forth a staff recommendation to put a four-way stop at that intersection. And as I mentioned, the response by both then Mayor Mills and myself was, well, why don't we just paint the curbs red? And
did that occur at a CDC meeting?
Yes, and then the response from staff was that, well, staff had spoken with residents. The residents were concerned that it was going to back parking of the non-resident workers at the facility onto Patrician, so they didn't like that alternative. We asked if residents in the area had been notified of the proposal to put stop signs, And they said, the staff response was, well, we notified everybody within 300 feet. That wasn't quite true. I think Kathy Moran on the opposite corner was not notified. So what we at our last CDC meeting that we discussed this item, we asked that everybody that might be affected, including all the neighborhoods to the east of that intersection, be notified of the proposal to put in stop signs so that we get feedback from all the residents that may be affected. That was the last CDC meeting before then Mayor Mills resigned from the council. We only had one member of the CDC, so we've been waiting for a new CDC meeting a new CDC to be appointed so we could, revisit this agenda item again.
Well, that's a lot of stuff that happened. I know that we did have someone, Kathy Moran came here and had public comment because she went to look up minutes, and I'm a council member and I didn't know any of that happened. It was never even reported up here at the dais when we asked for reports. So we're gonna visit that issue, but that was one thing that Kathy Moran wanted, was that information. She didn't have that either when she came. So we're gonna revisit that because no one knows all that occurred except you and Mr. Mills.
And well, Jared, I presume, had taken the minutes of that meeting.
There's no direct, there's nothing. And that's why Kathy came up and said that she doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I've not seen.
So if that, even Don wouldn't have known, otherwise it would have come back to CDC.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised that
So
it
I
didn't
don't
come
think
back to
the residents
CDC.
don't know, Kathy doesn't know.
Well, do we need to revisit this whole thing with all the people in the neighborhood there before we do anything?
Well, my recommendation would be no. I don't know what other alternative there is to, I think this is the solution to the problem. It's only 2 car links on each side. The property owner whose employees are doing it is saying that they will cooperate, and quite frankly, Lieutenant Puckett's folks will ticket them. So they will be ticketed if they park in the red. And I don't really know what other solution. I just took it on, there was loose files and what have you, and I thought it was something we could get resolved for the council, and be happy to send, letters out. But if you want to continue it and invite everybody to, talk about it,
Well, let's hear what Dan
Yeah,
has to say,
yeah,
too.
Let's hear from Dan Shortall on this item.
You guys all did such a great job talking about it. Took all my notes. Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Manager, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. My name is Dan Shortall, and I live 4th house on the left-hand side on Patrician Drive. My wife and 3 6th graders. When we exit our street, we always drive up Patrician and make a left or a right onto Santiago. It was easy to do. Always very easy to do. There wasn't any cars there until this rehabilitation facility came in. The rehabilitation facility is drug, alcohol, not really positive, but they bring in their employees. Their employees are counselors and people that run the house, and usually between the number of 4, and I've counted up to 9 cars. And just on a side note, wondering, does 9 cars violate any conditional use permits for parking for that facility? I'm just read somewhere about that and thought that might be something to discuss. But anyways, my concern is really for the safety for our residents, and it's a line of sight issue. We've got 4 or 5 families that drive their kids to school every day, and then we've got all the other residents, and they range in ages from 40s to 80s, driving cars up that street. The problem that we have with the line of sight is, as we get out to Patrician and we look to make a left or a right, I've come to the top of that street and I've seen where cars are traveling at super fast speeds up and down that road, anywhere higher than 35 miles an hour, and I'm sure topping 50. Vehicles way exceed the speed limit there. And it isn't an issue of, gosh, I hope an accident doesn't happen, but when an accident happens, it's gonna happen. And I certainly don't want any of my friends, my family on our street to have this happen to them. So originally a stop sign was discussed, and honestly, I thought that that was the absolute perfect solution. There isn't a stop sign all the way from Lemon on Santiago up through Sycamore all the way to Taft. So there are no stop signs in that area. So I thought, a stop sign will slow people down. There's a family on the opposite side of Workman Circle that cross Santiago every day and walk. They walk down with their young kids and their dogs. So I thought a stop sign would be a great solution. But the stop sign got turned down, and I understand. So now we're discussing the red curbs, and the red curbs is another great solution. And I think with 40 feet on either side, we can come to the top of the street. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, when I look left to try to get out to go to work, I'm looking directly into the sun, and I can see down far enough to know, hey, I need to stop because cars speeding down the road. I know red curbs will definitely help reduce accidents. The thing that excites me is what our engineer here said, and Mr. Powell said, that they've reached out to the owner of that house and talked to her, and she's promised not to park on Patrician, because I know that my neighbors down the street are going to be furious if all of a sudden they start parking on Patrician. And even though she said that to you, she's not telling the complete truth, because she does park on Patrician. She parks right in front of the house that's second on the left. So she's not being completely honest about that. So that concerns me a little bit. What we really need to do here is meet with her and talk to her and convince her that, hey, this is our community, and you're doing work in our community, and it's important to us to maintain the quality of life that we've had. And you can come in and have your facility on the corner, but park down the street so that our lives don't change and our lives aren't being interrupted with potential accidents here. I think the red curb would be great. If we can't get the stop sign, the red curb is exactly what we need, and it's really gonna not only reduce an accident, but save an accident. There's gonna be one there eventually. So I thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we could very easily
Invite the residents on that street to come to a meeting. Akram and I could meet with them, tell them if the council approves the red curb, explain it to them, and have the owner here, and make it very clear that parking on Patrician, is not going to be tolerated, and let her interact with her neighbors, and that might be a way of just kind of cementing the whole thing. But I really don't know of any other solution from the city standpoint other than red curb.
If I can interject, that's a great idea, except that you'd have to bring in all the contractors from the second house also, because if you drive down Patrician, it's full of contractor cars. So unfortunately, yeah, you don't want to pick on that resident, because I drive down that street often, because it's a very family.
So there's another resident.
It's not a facility, but it's a home under construction, and there's a million cars. It's very difficult to ride your bike.
Oh, but it's under the house is under construction.
It is, but the contractors park their cars on Patrician, so their employees also. I'm trying to give you the correlation that if you have one employer, you got to talk to the other, because as you well know, the construction vehicles are big and it's hard. Is that you just don't want to pick on one particular house.
That's a good point. And that house has been under construction for quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just difficult. Right now, it's really hard to get through Patrician, and it is a blind corner, because I drive it often myself. The red curb will help. It will help, because you'll have that 40 feet that you'll be able to see. I mean, it's not a stop sign. I would have preferred a stop sign. I have been educated, and I think we should try the red curb. If it doesn't work, we can put a stop sign and revisit it. But I would make a motion to put a red curb for the first 40 feet.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Pitts?
Yes.
Councilman Rosini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
And Jan, as I mentioned, that was exactly the solution that Greg Mills and I came to when we heard at the CDC, but staff said no, the residents were opposed.
Might have been a
So.
miscommunication from
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes.
So,
I don't
Anyway,
think-
we're
I
on-
don't think
we're on
the
the same page there.
I don't think the residents were told anything about the red curve. I've talked to a few residents.
Yeah.
So they didn't, we'll try it.
Okay, good. Next, we have mayor and council member matters, and the first item we have is discuss the mayor's requested matter, procedure for council member requested items.
Mr. Mayor, you and I talked about this, and I had our administrative intern, Matthew Hawk, do a survey of cities, and that survey is attached as to how they handle this. And there's a recommendation there from the mayor reviewing this survey, and that's open to discussion.
I'll tell you why I put this on here, but I would like to see where, if the council member makes a recommendation, put an item on the agenda, have some at the end of the agenda that says items for future agenda, where the council member can propose items for future agenda. And if they get at least one other council member to agree with them, we'll put it on the agenda. If you don't get at least one other council member, that means you're the only one that want to talk about it. I don't think we should waste time on it. Since I've been on here 2 years, I've seen what I thought was many frivolous items put on the council agenda that we spent countless hours on, had very little detail behind them, just some general idea. I had thought about having the council members to vote on it, but I thought that was a little too harsh. That at least if you got two people that want to hear about an item, we should listen to it. But I don't think if it's just one council person that wants an item on the agenda and the other four don't want it, I don't think we need to spend our time.
My 2 cents on this is that we don't have an issue here within our council, and even in the last 4 years, we haven't had one. Typically, a council member, and I'll speak for myself without, I go to Jared. I did go to Jared. I would tell him about an idea. There were several times that he would say, we've done it, we haven't done it, no, it's not going to happen, this is my suggestion. And you have to have some sort of a rapport with your city manager as to whether or not your idea is off kilter. I think that having 5 elected council people up here and not allowing them to bring something onto the agenda is stifling. I don't think we've had anything very frivolous. It's kind of the only time we can all talk to each other. I don't believe we've wasted any time up here on frivolous ideas. I mean, the longest council meetings that we've had to do with fireworks and parking on Feather Hill, and they weren't frivolous ideas. So, sometimes you have to have a little bit of creativity that comes up. And quite frankly, as we all know, sometimes councils are skewed. They are elected. Sometimes you might have 4 people that always vote together. And if that happens, you've got a council member who's been elected who's not ever going to be able to bring something up, whether it be good or bad. Since there hasn't been any issue here, I don't believe there's any reason to change. And it's all across the board, and all councils, they all do it differently. But you have to have a report to the city manager to know whether or not it's a good idea, not a bad idea, and go from there. So I appreciate you putting this on. I just don't think that it's something for the city. And we've done very well up to this point.
Well, I disagree. I've been on it 2 years, and I've seen many frivolous items I thought put on by council members.
Can you give me an example?
What?
Can you give me an example?
I'll give you one example. One was on there about putting a second story on the city hall. That also got the community upset because some people thought it was something about putting low-cost housing in the city. Because there was nothing on the report that said what it was about. I thought that was very frivolous. I thought it didn't provide any information, just something to discuss. I think unless you have at least 2 members that want to hear something. In fact, some councils have it even tougher. You had to vote on it. The council has to vote on the item to be put on the agenda. But I thought we shouldn't go that far, but I thought at least if you should have 2 members that want to hear the item.
I think that quite frankly, that second story came out of the Community Service Foundation of wanting a community center. So there was backup for that, Bill. So that's not, and I remember, I brought that up I also brought up trying to buy property, if you remember correctly, so that we could have a community center. It's not a frivolous item. It's called growth and it's called talking.
Well,
But what you want to do is you want to stifle, if you want to stifle new ideas, there's no issue. I mean, we're not here till 1 o'clock in the morning talking about petunias in the front yard. I mean, I would understand if there were issues that were pet projects that no one else wants. But speaking with the city manager, these ideas come from talking with the community. Not all the community may agree with all of it, but they do come from talking with the community.
well, we just have a different idea about what's frivolous, you know. I think it is frivolous.
Yeah.
Well, the thing we have to be careful about is to make sure that the public doesn't think that we think their ideas or their thoughts or their whatever is frivolous, that we listen, and I have mixed emotions about this one particular one. I lean both ways, but at the same time, I don't want to stifle any of our citizens or whatever. If an idea is brought to me and I bring it to council, I'd like for it to be heard, even if it's just someone that I've worked with and have an idea that might solve a problem in the city. So I have mixed emotions about it. I'm 50-50 on it.
Okay.
I know, I think that if you've, under the Brown Act, we're allowed to talk about an agenda item with, or something might be on the agenda with at least one other councilman. So, if you can, if you have an idea or of your own, or somebody brings you an idea, certainly bounce it off another councilman or a council person to see what they think. If you can get two to agree, if you get one other person to agree, then you put it on the agenda. And certainly, residents can also bring suggestions to the council during the public comment period, or if an agenda item comes up that they have thoughts about. I'd like to see that two council people support an agenda item, but also a requirement that there be backup more than just council discussion. Some backup so that people understand what the context is of the agenda item that's being proposed. And again, I guess the one that strikes a raw nerve with me was the one about adding the second story. I didn't know what it was about. When I read the agenda item, I had to call Jared myself to try to get some understanding what's being proposed. So who knows?
The fault then on the city manager not providing enough on there. The fault isn't from the council person. The fault, quite frankly, is with the city manager who made the report. It's not with the council member. City manager had all the information.
Then
yeah, so
somebody should have come down on the city manager.
And I would agree with you on that.
If you had provided the information. But yeah, there should be backup. It should be clear to the public as well as to the council people. What's this agenda item all about? And there should be. You should bounce it off of somebody else on the council, not just the city manager. We've got, the city manager is not another council person.
I mean, I believe in doing your homework. I mean, I do a lot of research at work to get things approved with senior leadership. So I agree with, bringing your homework here and have done your homework ahead of time so that when you do bring it up, that it's well thought out and planned and there's an agenda associated with it.
I'd like to be heard on this if possible. I think you're all raising very, very valid points. You just kind of come from slightly different opinions. I'd like to hear what our city attorney has to say on this and his experience in working with other cities, and also our city manager on this.
Well, as to a legal issue, I've always sort of thought, well, under the Brown Act, one of the things that is allowed is for people to request things to be put on future agendas. That's specifically allowed even if it's not agendized. But the Brown Act specifically says pursuant to the rules and procedures in place of that city council. So if you wanted to put limitations, you could. So that's the legal side. I mean, the most formalized way I've seen it done is in Irvine, so when I'm there, basically, if one council person can do it, but if it's only a week beforehand, staff doesn't really have time to put stuff together. So there's no staff report, and it just goes on the agenda, and the council person has to provide any information themselves. Usually it's not a blank sheet. Usually we try to give a paragraph or something. But if you want staff report, if you want research on the issue as to either financial or other viability, you have to give 2 weeks' notice. So that's how we do it in Irvine. In Yorba Linda, it's very, hey, person calls up the city manager, I want this on the agenda, and we do it that way. And that's worked okay in Yorba Linda. So it's really sort of based upon the culture of the cities. Irvine being a bit bigger, a bit more contentious, a bit more corporately structured, we have this 1 week, 2 week rule, but, which has seemed to work. So as far as preference, you know, then it's just my preference. I mean, I guess I would tilt towards easier availability to put stuff on the agenda rather than make it harder, but the two-person rule is a common rule in a lot of cities.
My experience has been, in 1980, I had a councilman that came up with an idea every day. And so I was going slightly crazy. And so we would, that's where I actually came up at that time. They didn't have it before, the council member requested item. And we started putting the council member requested items on, and that worked fine for 19 years with individual councilmen coming to me and discussing it and politely, you know, telling them that this is the craziest thing I've ever heard to this is brilliant, you know. And so, and sometimes you can talk them out of, you know, pursuing it, sometimes you can't. We would, they would ask, or I would ask them, do you want a staff recommendation? If they knew that my recommendation was going to be no, you know, I didn't think it was a great idea, they would say, no, we don't want your recommendation. But oftentimes they would ask for a recommendation. I think it does help a lot to have some backup information as opposed to just throwing something out there and then the staff has got to try to percolate, you know, all of the different comments and what have you, and what are we really working on. So, I mean, I think, for example, the mayor brought this idea to us. We were given a chance to do the study. You have a lot more information about this particular subject, and I think that is helpful. But sometimes it is just an idea, and a councilman wants to float the idea, and there's discussion, you know, about it. So. You know, I think I think it goes back to your culture. You know, what works for this group might change in the future. In 2008 and 2012, I can't imagine this even coming up. We had a few council member requested items. It was not a problem. You know.
And I should, to set a follow-up to your question, Councilman, like in Yorba Linda, it's not as haphazard as maybe I had it seem. We always require the council person to write at least a one paragraph. This is what I'm talking about. So even in the absence of any staff report, there's always something. It's not a blank sheet, just put this title and nobody knows what it is.
Well, that's been one of my frustrations have been, that these items come up, there's nothing, there's no background. There's no recommendation, there's no background, it's just an idea to set up a discussion. Well, I don't want to figure out what your idea is. If you have an idea, have some backup, have some recommendation for it. You know, when you come forward, have some write-up on it. So the frustration is that we get these with nothing on them, just to discuss. So that's the reason I propose this, because that's been the most frustrating part about it. Does anyone from the public would like to speak on this? If not, I'm going to make a motion.
I've got one.
There is one.
Oh, okay. Yes, come right up.
Howard Kirshner, Open Circle. I've been listening to you, and this is not something I've considered or thought about beforehand. But it seems to me that we have a city mayor who can act as an excellent funnel spot to hear ideas, judge whether the idea has some support, counsel the council member as to what might be helpful to the rest of the council members to hear the issue or hear the idea, and use your city manager as a place to bring balance to what is being brought forth to the council. It sounds fairly simple to me, and it seems to be consistent in my mind with the culture of Villa Park, keeping things open, keeping it fresh, looking for contribution, looking for creativity. The idea of votes and counts and permissions is offensive to me, particularly when you have skilled talent that you've hired to help you sort through that on a day-to-day basis. So that's my thought.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve my recommendation.
I'll second with the addition that backup be, at least a paragraph of backup be provided to any agenda item.
I agree.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
No.
Councilman Pitts?
No.
Councilman Rossini?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Next item is item number 27, mayor requested item, proposal for team building and strategic planning. This is one I brought up because I believe in strategic planning, that you should have a vision of where you want to go and how you're going to get there. City manager has gotten one proposal on strategic planning from someone he knows. I also know someone else that does a more detailed strategic planning. And the second item is team building. In my experience here on the council, I think we need some team building because it's been kind of acrimonious since I've been on the council, and I'd like to see us get some team building so we're all on the same page and all trying to work towards the same goals.
Have we done this in the past?
Huh?
Have you all done this in the past?
No, not since I've been on here. We haven't done a team building.
No, I'm planning sessions.
We haven't done team building, but we've had what we've called a strategic planning meeting. But I think what Mayor Nelson is requesting is a lot more in depth. We would have a meeting with an open meeting with all 5 council members, and we would discuss capital projects. We would discuss, and it would be like the kickoff to the budget is basically what the strategic. We'd go over our work plan for the year and council's goals and revise that. Last year we revised mission statement, cut a bunch of stuff out. But at that point it was recommended that, or it was discussed that potentially do a more in-depth strategic planning.
So is this for a facilitator?
Yes.
Yeah, this is primarily for a facilitator. The proposal we have here is primarily for a facilitator.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is just a proposal to give you an idea. I know Bill Kelly, really well. They do it, and so this is just giving you some background information. If you're going to do it, you go out and get 2 or 3 proposals. The mayor has somebody else, in mind. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the cost parameters. And the one caveat is on team building, unless you have all 5, you don't do it. You don't even think about it if you don't have all 5 there at the session.
Does this include staff as well?
Yes, yeah, it can. Certain key staff members. The strategic planning would involve talking to all the staff members. But the team building, as I understood the mayor, was focused probably on the city manager and
the city manager and the council.
And that's generally the way they go. Sometimes they bring in department heads, but you could bring in certainly Michelle. But that's pretty much it for this organization.
And it costs $12,000 to $15,000 to do this?
For both. That's for the team building. He just gave me an estimate of around 4,000, and the strategic planning was around 8 or something, 8,600. So again, I'm not selling Bill Kelly and Associates. I'm just telling you this is what you're looking at if you want to spend some money. It could get up to 20,000 real easy, depending upon who you bring in and how touchy-feely you want to get and all this kind of stuff, and how many days you want to do this thing and what have you. So it's more difficult now to do some of this than it used to be. We used to be able to go out to Palm Springs, play golf, and come back in and write on the board and what have you. As long as you had all 5, it could be very productive. Here you'll probably end up doing it, you know.
No, I was proposing doing it here, not in Palm Springs.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Brown Act has some problems with that now.
You know, we're elected officials. We weren't elected as a team. We were elected as individuals. We have staggered terms. This isn't a career for the majority of us. We don't make team decisions. We represent the city and we represent the public, and we do our research, we speak, and if we have trust among each other, maybe we like each other. We're not here to be a team. We're here to represent the city. We're here to enforce and act, make sure that we have a safe environment for us, but we're not here to have kumbaya among each other. And that's not going to happen.
Could I just add
Mayor
just one?
Nelson,
I'm sorry.
when you send a letter to the district attorney with my name on it, and that purpose is to put me in jail, and that's your purpose, that's not a team. You can't go back. But we're not a team. And I will not participate in a $15,000 kumbaya of this council. That is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way to spend money. I think that walking into this office and saying good morning, good afternoon to the staff, asking them how their weekend was, how about saying good morning, good afternoon to each other? Don't need to pay $15,000. I waited for you to say good morning to me, good afternoon to me. I went out of my way today to say that. I wanted to see how long it was going to take you to say hello to me. And I've been watching that. We don't need $15,000 for that. Common courtesy is really all we need. And
Well-
that's where I'm at with it.
Well, I disagree with that. I think we're here to represent all the people of Villa Park, not just the ones that voted for us. I believe when I'm here, you represent everybody in Villa Park.
I didn't say
But-
voted for me.
But,
I said people.
But that's what I said.
Yeah,
But I see you're not interested in it, so we'll drop the team building part, because I agree with Don, if you don't have all five, it's not gonna work. So let's focus on strategic planning part.
And that we've done well. We've had, I mean, I've spent Saturdays in here with strategic planning. I'm the one who brought in that we all sit in our budget sessions for 4 times. When I first got on this council, we didn't do that. We did not sit through all those and all talk about the budget. We would sit up here the first year I was here, and we got a budget. I didn't know anything about it. So we now have 4 planning sessions for budget and planning. And in those meetings, they're here, the public's invited. And I don't really know how much more time we can spend on that. We've done it, it's kind of taken a little bit of a different form than 4 years ago, but it's quite detailed. We have our goals, we have our wishes, we have our wants, and then we bring them back here, and then we come back to another meeting and we revisit it. So we have 4 sessions already planned.
Well, in my opinion, it's nowhere near what's called strategic planning. What you do is nowhere near that, in my experience.
In mine too, yeah.
Well, we're a council, we're not staff. I mean, we have staff members to do that. How much more time do you want us to spend doing that?
Well, I think it's part of the council's responsibility to do strategic planning.
But we do it.
No, you don't do it.
If
Not-
there's something
not-
else
what-
that you
what
want,
you
bring
do-
it up.
What you do is not strategic planning, in my opinion. It's not.
Well, bring it up at those sessions if there's something else that you have in mind.
Well, that's what I'm bringing it up here.
But your way of doing it, my way of doing it, Bob's way of doing it, Vince's way of doing it, we're all together when we talk. If you have a different way that you want to speak to us or plan something, that idea can be brought at that time. I mean,
What's different in the past that this firm will bring to us today? Maybe, I mean, we have a plan in place. There may be some components missing, but with yours and Bob's and everyone's input, can we achieve the same thing without spending the money? Or do we really truly need to go out and spend money to hire somebody to come in here to tell us how to plan?
well, we've done it for 55 years, just fine.
I'm just asking. I don't know the history, so I
Do
wasn't
you
part of
want
the budgets.
interim city manager to tiptoe into this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Careful.
The strategic planning part of this, you know, I think the mayor brought it up for discussion, and you're having the discussion. You don't need to make a decision tonight. Strategic planning with the kinds of capital projects that you're facing, and with this last weekend, and with some other, with your infrastructure tour, I think having someone helping you with the strategic planning, and considering that there isn't a kumbaya up here, and you know, and you're going to be looking at some serious, and the Mayor Pro Tem has been talking about the infrastructure, and it is old in some places, and what have you, some strategic planning could be very useful. But you might just continue this, let it percolate, and then when your permanent city manager, you know, not that far away, comes in, and you can get and bringing him in through the strategic planning process can be very helpful too, for him to get to understand really what your priorities are and concerns, and really help you be a team of six then. So, you know, I would just say, take the mayor's ideas. We've got another man that you asked me to get a proposal from. I'll get that proposal, and then let the new city manager bring his ideas to you, and that may bring some additional light, you know, to this matter.
I agree with that. I brought this up for discussion to find out how you felt about it. And I'd like to let you say, as you say, let it percolate, and we'll move on, if it's okay with the rest of the council.
So you'd just be continuing it?
Yes.
Without?
Agreed.
That's cool.
Give it a chance to talk, think about it more.
My
We don't
decision
need a
won't
vote for
change.
continuation? No.
I will not participate in something that costs that kind of money for this city.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, so we'll move on. Next is council member requested item, Fasenelli, removing public safety from the Community Development and Public Safety Committee.
I brought this item up, I can't remember which council meeting, last meeting or the meeting before, and today actually was a great example with the red curb thing. When we combined these, we combined it because the public safety name was in community development. It happened to be in there, and so it was combined to go into LEAC. And I think what has happened here is that we're missing a lot of areas within the city of items that are happening. I went through some of the Lilly Planning invoices that, just to familiarize myself with them. It had been a while since I don't sign the checks anymore, so I wasn't able to see what was there. And I found a lot of things going on in the city, such as cell towers going up and complaints from walls being too high are the two really that came up that were the most, that I didn't know anything about cameras going up in the city. They were not city-owned cameras, they were privately owned cameras, taking the pictures of the license plate. And those are the type of issues that used to come to the CDC. And the city manager would bring those to us. He would also bring those to us when we had issues with construction, with cars, the building, that little building report. Those are the items that used to come to it. And it kind of gave us an awareness of what was going on in the city. Now, the focus has gone more so towards the safety end of it, which LEAC does have its own agenda, its own purpose, but all these other items are no longer being discussed. And I think that that was proven today, that the residents didn't know about the red curb. How they didn't know? Obviously, there was a drop of a ball somewhere in the staff. But there's been nothing about the community for the last year. And I was a little bit disturbed when I found out about those items over the past year. So I'd like to separate that out. The CDC used to also deal with when we had events in the city. We would talk about the patrol, you know, people, how the sheriff was going to be involved. When we had the 5K, how we were going to have the traffic among the people. So there's a lot of issues that aren't being discussed as it's going to LEAC because it doesn't pertain to that. So I'd like to bring that back, separate it, and come back to having a community development meeting.
Well, the city manager brought the items to the CDC when you were the chairman of the CDC prior to my becoming the chairman of the CDC and Public Safety Committee. Why he didn't bring the cell tower thing, I don't know. I never heard about it. It wasn't because anybody on the community, either me or Greg Mills or before that Bill Nelson, blocked those things. They just weren't brought to us by staff. Why Jared stopped bringing them, I'm clueless. The primary focus that I've seen of that we've participated in with the Community Development Public Safety Committee has been the more of the planning type issues, the variances and so forth. Be pleased to address other things that the city manager brings to us, and maybe with the new city manager, he'll start bringing more comprehensively bringing us agenda items. Again, I have no idea why Jared stopped bringing those to the committee. Certainly, the LEAC provides guidance to the city on specific issues related to law enforcement, but again, the CDC members are just like other city council members. Don't have, except now, didn't have law enforcement experience, so that was valuable. The CDC relationship with the LEAC was modeled directly after the Investment Advisory Committee and Budget Committee relationship, which was established back in, I guess, 1995, where you have a Citizens Advisory Committee that consists of very skilled investment professionals with 2 members of the City Council that receive feedback and guidance from these investment experts, and they use that information in developing the budget. Same with the CDC and Public Safety and the LEAC. We get information from the LEAC, again, the community members that are professionals in law enforcement on law enforcement issues. But that doesn't say that we only deal with public safety issues. We deal with a wide, anything that's brought to us by the city manager or that we see ourselves that relates to community development and community activities within the city. There's nothing that's changed.
But community development variances in CUP don't have anything to do with law enforcement. So I'm trying to bring it back to the community. Everything is not about, the roles are separate, and I've seen the damage now that's done that quite frankly, I don't think that we're very educated up here about what's going on in the community, because it's all leaning towards public safety and law enforcement, and that has its role. It does have its role. We need to come back and have a role now for community development.
There is a role
for community development has to do with the boxes that were painted. That came out of our CDC. Those boxes, utility boxes, was a community development. That was something Greg and I brought within that. So maybe that Jared brought, I don't know why Jared didn't bring a whole lot of stuff to you, but we also encouraged and brought things to the CDC too. And we haven't gotten that.
Yeah, we have 2, and
I don't know, there aren't any notes, and we don't get a report.
I don't know. Jared took notes, and I presume provided them, made them available.
They're not on the website, and it's not there. I mean, for me to go through 6 months of bills, it's not there. So that's my proposal. My proposal is to separate it and get 2 council members to get back in tune with the community and let the law enforcement and safety do their portion of that. So I'm not changing that, but I do think that 2 council people need to be part of how it used to be, which is, we got a lot more done back then.
Well, if there are additional items that you want the CDC and Public Safety Committee to be looking at,
It's not public safety.
such as the the cell tower issue, why you didn't bring that to the attention of
I
me
did.
and Greg Mills
I
last
can't.
fall?
I brought it to the council. I brought it to the council the minute I found it. And it was within days. I can't come to you but as soon as I found it. Why do I have to go and find that out? That's part of a CDC. I think that's what I'm asking. We've missed that part. And I'm not blaming anybody. But because the focus has been on the public safety and
The focus has been on all of the responsibilities assigned to the
well, there's
CDC
a
and
lot,
public
then
safety.
there's a lot of things going on in the city that we're not aware of. And the only way to bring that back is to focus on community development and have the LEAC focus on public safety and focus on law enforcement.
It's-
I do think that they're separate.
It sounds like to me there may have been a communications failure too in this process, both with our past city manager potentially and with the CDC. I'd almost say maybe we just table this for the time being and wait till our new city manager gets installed and see how the process goes at that point in time, because it could be that the council was not informed in the past because Jared just didn't make it available, the information available to anybody to do it, either the CDC or the council. I don't know. But I'm just thinking maybe we need to give our new potential city manager the opportunity to mend those fences from the past and make sure that we're all engaged in the discussion and looking for ways to be involved in both aspects of it, maybe.
I agree with Robbie on that.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
Okay.
Yep. And a second?
Is that a motion?
Indeed, it
Yes, it's a
is.
motion.
Let's give our city manager an opportunity to work through some of these issues, rather than make a whole bunch without him.
Voice vote is fine for this, and I'll put it in my file that says next city manager file.
Okay.
That file's growing.
By the day, by the minute,
Here.
by the second.
So a voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
41. Next, we have a council member requested item, Fasenelli, video, audio recording of committee meetings.
Right, this issue is one that is along transparency. Transparency is a big word. A lot of things happen in our committees, whether they're advisory committees, whether they're subcommittees. A lot of decisions come out of them, and even if it's an advisory committee, a lot of work goes into it. The staff's time's being used, and the public should know what's going on with these committees. Other cities do make these meetings available. The cost involved to videotape every committee meeting is certainly not one that the city should absorb, but an audio recording of subcommittee meetings should be available for that public who cannot come to those meetings. And the majority of the public doesn't come to these meetings. They are either at 9 o'clock in the morning, they're at 4 o'clock, they're always at different times. And as you can see, people are working, and we give them the ability to stay home and watch this council meeting from their TV. So they don't have to come here. But we don't give them that ability at all to see what's going on in the committee meetings. I'm a council member. I have no idea what the CDC did. There's no minutes, there's no recording, there's no report. I heard today for the first time that things were discussed, and here I've sat here for a year. I want to know what's going on. You know, go out, buy a $300, recorder, attach it to your the laptop, and then upload it on the website so everybody can hear it. It's transparent, and we know where the backup came from. During the election process, we did have 3 candidates that were up here, 2 of them who were fortunate enough to make it. As a council member, all 3 were asked that question. All 3 agreed. All 3 agreed that transparency was important and that they actually liked the fact that we could have audio recordings. One of them actually said they wanted all of them videotaped. I don't think that that's practical, but given that those 2 people were elected by the people, I happen to want everything also. I don't see where it's an issue, and I certainly open it up for discussion.
One of the challenges I've had, and I don't know if it's along the same lines or not, but as a new council member, one of the things that I did when you first appointed me to some of the committees was to go out and look for minutes of the meetings and try to learn as much as I could about the committee and the actions it had taken and, of the past, so that I was prepared going into my new role and so forth. A lot of our committees don't even have minutes posted anymore. And I think this would actually help with the minute processing, and really, take the strain off some of the people that are actually sitting there trying to translate everything that's said to a document that can be transparent for everybody and provide the input that they need. But I've had a struggle trying to get caught up, and what's going to require me to do is to sit down with each and every committee member almost to find out what's gone on in the past, because people change and things change. So I think this will help facilitate a lot of effort in trying to stay current with what we're doing and also be transparent to everybody who wants to see it.
I think it's important, and the councilwoman was absolutely correct in that I supported transparency, and I think it's critically important that we do everything we can to support that in government. I wholeheartedly support this particular item. I would be adamantly opposed only from a cost perspective for video beyond anything here at the general city council meeting. But I think this is very, very important, and I just think that it sends the wrong message if we don't support it.
Well, I think minutes for the committees is sufficient to notify the public of what went on in the meeting. It's just that in the last few months, apparently we haven't done a good job in having all the committee minutes in here, but we do have quite a few in here for 2016 for most committees.
There was a complaint from the public that did come, and she was correct that the minutes are really, they're quite brief. And of course, minutes don't have to be detailed if you want to follow the rules of order. It could just be your actionable items. But this red curb item would not have even been an issue had we had an audio recording of the CDCs, because it would have been there. We would have been able to go back. I myself want to know what goes on too, because I'm not going to come to the minor committee meetings. I think it's a matter of transparency. We do have quite a few committees now, and these committees are making, recommendations to the council that, impact, the public's life. It's not a big deal to actually record it. We are public.
I think the Law Enforcement Advisory Committee fell victim to the same as the CDC in this regard. There was items that were unfortunately misrepresented to the council that perhaps could have been clarified by an audio recording of our meetings. Though I do agree with the gentleman to my left here, I think we have had detailed minutes. It just unfortunately did not pass through staff or our city manager to the council and to the public. So I think to clarify that issue, we have audio recordings at a minimum.
Have a motion?
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
Voice vote.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes. Next, we have council member item, council member Fasanelli, and it's voting procedure, change in voting procedure.
Over the past 4 years I have been on here and watching past council meetings, I've seen and I've heard council members base their votes on what the other council members have said before them. Now, Don, you took our voting a little differently this time. I think, than the way Jared used to do it. You're starting, I think, from one end, going to another, and Jared would take the vote by whoever made the motion and going backwards forward. I've seen it done in different ways.
Yeah, this is just the way I've done it.
Right, exactly, and I don't know what's right or what's wrong.
It's a little hard to change.
But I know, it's okay, it doesn't matter. But what I have heard here, and I'm gonna speak on things that I did see here, is you would watch the council member. You would watch a council member, and they'd be trying to make up they're nodding their head, they're making little motions as to how they're gonna vote. And that's not how we should vote. We should vote independently. We should vote for the good of the city, for the good of the order, and not worry about whether Vince is going to vote, for me as how I'm voting, because that's not how we were elected. We've had council members sit here and say, well, I'm the swing vote. I'm the swing vote. Gosh, what are you going to do? I was going to vote yes, but now I see that Deanna's voting no. And now I'm thinking, we've had this discussion up here, I don't know how many times. And I think that's unfair to our public. I really do. It's not a popularity contest up here. It's something that we need to, we make a decision based on the criteria that's given to us by the city manager, by the criteria that's given us from all of the individual committees, and to have a vote that's not independent is not very transparent in itself. The City of Orange, they vote by electronic voting. Once this was brought up here, we had an unrealistic dollar amount that was brought to this council. They said it was $60,000 to have an electronic voting board. That is unrealistic. It is not the case. There are cheaper methods that I would like to propose that the city manager look into. And if for some reason they are cost prohibitive, which I don't think they're going to be, we don't have to use electronic voting. I even suggest using a paddle or a chalkboard. So I don't want cost to be an issue here. I know, and I just want to make sure that we don't use chalkboard. They still make them. Yeah, they still make them. I'm making sure that cost is not an issue in this transparency of voting. I don't want it to be one. I know they use them at school all the time. They're called little clickers, All they got to do is go like this and it goes straight to his computer. So I'd like to have the city manager come back with information on what is out there for us.
Well, I made a proposal over a year ago to do electronic voting, and Jared went out and found that the cost was prohibitive. So I'm in support of electronic voting. I'm not in support of paddle voting.
I know. I'm not either, but it's an
If we
option.
can get electronic voting in a reasonable price, I'm for it.
I agree.
So this should be something you can do with the laptop.
I think we can study it and bring it back to you.
Okay, yeah, if you can find something with electronic voting.
We'll look to our technology expert.
Yeah, come on, Robbie.
All right. Wonderful, thank you. So roll vote? Okay. Would you?
Let's continue
Yes.
it until then.
We have further info.
Have
Well,
further
not
information.
continue, we're advising you to go get quotes for us. You're directing you?
Proposal
Thank you.
on electronic voting,
You're going to stick that in the folder too?
yeah.
Okay, can
Keep
you work
passing
on
the
that
buck.
one and not stick it in the folder?
Keep passing the buck.
I appreciate that.
We'll work on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Matthew?
Thank you.
Next item, council member requested Matter Fasenelli, Councilwoman Fasenelli, council member reporting of outside committees, commissions, and boards.
Okay, it's my last one, guys. I think that we have a very talented group of people up here, very educated group of people up here, and I know that when I first got elected, I was asked these questions by the city attorney at some point, right when I first got elected. Yeah, believe it or not, you asked me what boards I was on, and I didn't have anything to report at the time that was anything, but I was asked once. I haven't been asked since. And I think even though we fill out our Form 700s and we put our information on there, we don't know what boards that any of us are on, if we're even on any, if there's any conflicts of interest. And I think, again, going with transparency, there's two ways to look at this. First, it's transparent, and second, it also would show the public what our attributes are, what we have, what we do, and what our skills might be that they don't know about, because they don't know what kind of groups you're on. But more so that there isn't any sort of a conflict of interest. And I think at least once a year that, we should be required to submit that to the city. That's not a requirement from the feds or the state, but I think it should be a requirement from the city that they see what kind of agencies that we do sit on boards for, just to make sure that there isn't any sort of a conflict.
Are you referring to all public committees, public boards, public commissions?
Well, I think that even if you're on the board of a nonprofit, and I'm just going to throw out the Boys and Girls Club, because something may come up here, may come up where we're financially having to deal with it. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if you were a member of that board. I think it's important to just have the city know that. It's a matter of public record that you're on that board. It's not a secret. But it's a transparency issue that we're not hiring the, I don't know, the best friend of the person who works for the Boys and Girls Club or so on. I think it's, that's how you find stuff out, and it's a matter of being transparent. There's a lot, I know, Bill, you're on a lot of boards. I'm on a lot of philanthropy boards. You want to make sure that I'm not asking this city to participate in an event just because if I'm sitting on that board, I want to make sure you know that before you commit to doing something, say, with that particular company or that philanthropy. So I was asked once, and I'm coming back to it because I was never asked again by the city, by you.
I'm going to ask counsel if I'm not correct. If you have a conflict of interest, you're supposed to notify the conflict of interest if you have voting on something.
Yes, under the law, you are captains of your own ship.
Yeah.
And you are deemed to, if something comes before you in which there is some sort of interest that would trigger a conflict, you are deemed to report it
to report it.
or suffer the consequences for not doing so and participating in violation of laws requiring you to do so. I mean, so Form 700s, those are really a triggering mechanism for the Political Reform Act, which is just financial conflicts of interest. So you have to list your business, your real property other than your residence, your sources of income, all that. Personal issue, I'm always wary of extending things, either rightfully or wrongfully, beyond state law, because with state law, you know what the rules are. There's cases that help you interpret them. I mean, so if I'm given this, right, and I say, okay, there's now a city policy saying people have to report what conditions they're on. That could be interpreted multiple different ways. This isn't a city ordinance. It can't be enforced. So if somebody doesn't list stuff, I mean, I guess the council could censure them under sort of its council power, but there's nothing I can do about it. So there's that issue. I mean, the transparency issue, I'd let you argue back and forth. That's a policy decision. There's nothing wrong with doing so, but from an enforcement side and from a clarity side, I mean, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to ask those types of questions, just so I know myself if I see something, okay, I got to be aware of somebody's on this board. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and I'm
So-
not looking for an enforcement issue
Right.
here. I'm looking for a transparency issue. There's nothing here that I'm looking to enforce, but a transparency issue so that we know. That we know what's going on, and that's the purpose of it.
Well, I don't believe in trying to say everything is about transparency issue. That's the new key word, is transparency. First, to me, it's an invasion of privacy. To me, it's an invasion of my privacy. It's none of your business what boards or commissions I'm on. It really isn't. As long as I don't have a conflict of interest, it's none of your business.
I think we have the FPPC, we have a city attorney, though I appreciate any effort in the realm of transparency. I think we're making this out to be more than it needs to be, though I appreciate the efforts that the councilwoman has put into this. I don't think it's necessary at this point in time. And I think our city attorney more or less provided that information to us.
I'm going to move that we reject the recommendation here for this item.
Second.
Councilwoman Fasenelli,
No.
Councilman Pitts,
No.
Councilman Rossini,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Colacott,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Next, we have the city manager report, which I'm pleased to see. I think we should always have had a city manager report in the past. Most places do have that.
Well, I have two things. I'd like to go around and check with your staff and see if they have key things. And, we have the staff here because this is a very good way for them to understand what the council's priorities are, for you to ask them specific questions, which can save us time writing emails all around. And then gives you a chance to, I also appreciate them. Ray, anything from planning?
We just have one item that is going to go before the CDC. It involves a property that's going to be requesting a variance, a deviation on a fence height in the front yard, and that's scheduled for the February 6th CDC meeting. Beyond that, there's really nothing pressing other than the day-to-day stuff that happens at City Hall.
What
That
day,
the one-
what
oh,
day?
excuse me.
I think it's Monday, February 6th at 5 o'clock.
Is that the one we,
Meeting is at 6 o'clock on that day. We may want to be talking to them, one of those, about changing the date, because that's only 1 hour for the community development meeting, and then go right into LEAC.
I can go earlier if need
That's just
be.
something to consider in the future. Okay, good.
Thanks, Don.
Michelle?
Well, we'll be working on the storm drain issue, seeing where we can get some money. That's probably the priority right now. Finishing up year-end reporting is what I'm doing. State Controller's report.
Akram?
I think as Michelle mentioned, it's mainly right now, we want to come up with some long-term solution for the storm drain that failed last week. And we'll be working with the county to determine who's the ownership of that channel. And luckily that the governor has declared emergency, the state of emergency for the city of California, which will be able to apply for some money to improve that facility.
Good. Bill, anything from building? Anything further? Mike, anything that you want to add?
No, I spent the weekend with these guys, so.
Right. And police and fire have reported. I just want to add. Oh, I'm sorry. Heavens. Talking all night.
how about me?
I forget.
Nothing to report.
So I just want to echo what the mayor said about the staff, and I'm sending a letter to the director of Public Works for the county. Their people were phenomenal. But I tell you, you have two of the finest public servants sitting out here in the form of Mike Knowles and Akram, who spent hours and hours here. And they are incredible. Their dedication to the city is, just unparalleled, quite frankly, okay? So I just wanted to echo that. The other thing is that Jackie and I are leaving town for February 1 to 3. We'll be in San Francisco. It was pre-scheduled. Michelle will be acting city manager.
All right.
That's all I have to report.
Cool.
Party.
Now is the time to hear individual council members' information items. Remember also that you have a required meeting attendance report if you attended a meeting and got reimbursable expenses for it. So I'd like to start with Councilwoman Fasenelli. Do you have any reports or comments to share?
Oh, I just want to share the information I provided to the city manager with Akram, that I did find in 1994, Akram, I don't know how long have you been here? I don't know how.
2011.
Oh, 2011, okay. That there was a report done, there was a contract given to the Orange County government, that's what they're referred to, that they actually inspected all of the underground city-owned drainage facilities. So, if you want to take a look at that, that would be really valuable. I know it was in May of 1994, so it may have been the April or the May council meeting of that time, to take a look at that and see what kind of position that our underground facilities were in. Other than that, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilmember
Pitts?
Pitts?
Couple things. First of all, I'd like to thank the entire staff. I mean, I'm new to the council, and you know, getting up to speed with our city manager and the entire staff has been a real treat for me because you all have been very helpful. You know, you all reach out quite often with information that's helped me as a new council member, and I really do appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for all the support you've given me. Mike, it was fun riding around in the truck with you this weekend, throwing sandbags. I can't keep up with you, my friend. I tried really hard, but I threw sandbags, and they weren't, you were throwing them on the truck faster than I could throw them to you.
Jared told my friend.
And lastly, I had the opportunity, along with Vince, to attend the League of Cities training for all city newbies last week. It was a 2.5-day training course, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of that. I do have to say that, you know, they saved the boring stuff for after lunch in the afternoon, like all the legal stuff. No offense, Todd.
Oh, I hear you.
You know, it was amazing because you'd see a lot of people go like this after lunch, and it was painful. But they did have it, you know, the fun stuff in the morning. But for me, it was a week of learning. I learned a lot of do's and don'ts. You know, I met a lot of wonderful people there. It was a great networking event. I met a lot of people from different cities, have a lot of business cards, so I can reach out and touch some of those folks for help at later times. I especially liked the hilarious skit at lunch. I don't know if any of you all have attended this training or not, but it was the do's and don'ts of a city council, and that's where they had a cast of characters up there. And I have to tell you, Todd, I've got a photograph and a video of the city attorney, and I've got to share that with you. He sat there with a baseball hat sideways and sunglasses, and his answers, and Vince will probably attest to it, were hilarious. But I really thank you all for the opportunity. It was helpful, and it will continue to be a guide for me as your council member going forward. Thank you.
Councilman Colacott.
Nothing to report this month.
Councilman Rossini.
Just like Councilman Pitts, I was fortunate enough to attend that training conference, and it was truly a rare treat. And I want to extend my thanks out to Kim. I think besides calling my family when we safely touched down from a rather bumpy flight, both going from and coming back, I contacted my family and said, thank God I'm on the ground. But I also sent an email to Kim, and I personally thanked her for putting together everything and letting her know how much I really appreciated the effort that she put forth. It meant a lot to me. Things were they were flawless. It was a very valuable training session, and I'm very appreciative. I learned a lot. There was definitely some funny moments. I met a college kid, for lack of a better word. He looked like he was 18. He was a newly elected council member from the wonderful city of Crescent City, and I hope they checked his ID at the door. Let's put it that way. I met several. He was. I met several mayors from local cities, several city council members. Disappointed not to see a few more, but I appreciate the opportunity. I'm thankful for everything that you've all done to welcome me. I look forward to working with the council in its entirety, setting differences aside and moving forward on behalf of our people, our residents, our friends, our neighbors, and remember, this is a city that welcomes everybody. I also want to extend my personal gratitude and thanks to the Orange County Sheriff's Department, the Orange County Fire Authority, and most certainly the Orange County Public Works for their outstanding work, and Supervisor Todd Spitzer. Together, we worked to deal with this issue, and I've got a long way to go, but I think we made some phenomenal efforts during a pretty significant rain event, and I'm thankful for everybody.
Okay, thank you for those informative reports. If there's no additional items, is there any additional items? If not, I will adjourn the meeting to the next regular scheduled meeting on February the 7th at 6:30 p.m.